Hello everybody, my name is Ben, and today I got something special. I got the 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro in beautiful condition. So let's jump right into it. Let's check this thing out. So here it is. This is the 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro, and it's in super nice shape, just like I mentioned. This is, as you know, it's the very last year of this design of MacBook Pro. And that gives you MagSafe over here on the left. You got those mini display port, Thunderbolt ports, USB type A, and an SD card slot, HDMI, and USB-A again. And this SD card slot and HDMI are things we did not see on MacBooks all the way up until 2021, again, after we lost this 2015 MacBook Pro in 2016 with the introduction of those Touch Bar MacBook Pros. So this is really kind of a special device. It's a homage to the way MacBooks used to be a few years ago and how they've kind of become again afterwards. So opening it up, it's really a very pretty laptop. You see just the large, this traditional chiclet style keys. It's a very nice, satisfying keyboard, has a nice click to it. However, one thing I've noticed with this keyboard compared to other more modern keyboards is the keys aren't nearly as large as other keys. You can see there's more space in between the keys, and that weirdly has a surprisingly large difference in the way that I feel typing on the keyboard. I feel like I have to search out the keys a little bit more subconsciously, but all things considered, it's an amazing keyboard, and it's a good place to be typing on a paper. And here it is powered on. One of the first things you'll notice with this laptop is the bright, beautiful 15-inch display. And while it is aging a little bit in that it's not nearly as punchy or as colorful or as bright as some of the newer displays, and it doesn't have ProMotion, it doesn't have the high refresh rate, it's still a stunning panel, and it's really surprising just how nice it is. You will notice though, if you're used to any newer MacBook Pro, that the colors on this display aren't nearly as punchy, like I mentioned. Especially if you just put on some more color for wallpapers. There's just a little bit of life that's just drained out of the screens. It doesn't have quite that pop to it. But that being said, if you, if you're coming from almost any other laptop, honestly, this screen is still better than most laptops to this day. And it's really impressive that it has aged this well. It's a super high resolution panel. It's actually 2880 by 1800. If I remember right. So that's really high resolution. It's 220 pixels per inch. So that's probably one of the highest points of this computer is that display. One thing too about these laptops that you should know about is almost all of them at this point, if you find them on the used market, are going to have this message on them. I don't know if you can see that, but service recommended on the battery. At this point, these laptops are really old, and unless somebody has taken the effort to replace the battery at some point, the battery life is not gonna be that good. For example, on this one, let's go ahead and go to System Report and go to Power. You can see this one has 851 cycles, and it says service recommended. So with this computer, I actually, as soon as I unplug it, it basically dies. It doesn't last at all. And you're going to really want to make sure, if you're looking at one of these computers in the used market, check those numbers, ask the seller what it is, because that's going to be crucial to you getting any use out of this computer off the plug. One thing to be aware of on this computer is it is running macOS Monterey, which is now a couple of years out of date, but Monterey is still getting security updates for now. After a couple of years though, I wouldn't recommend using it because it won't be getting those security updates from Apple. So I'm actually surprised that apps are still supported so well. You're still running the current version of Word and Office, and just about any application you go onto on the internet, you're able to download the latest version for now. But pretty quickly, you're going to want to just be wary of this computer, because you won't be able to do everything you need to with that OS not being the most up-to-date version you can get on the MacBook. And something else that's really special about this computer is the trackpad. Now, this was the very first year of Apple doing haptic trackpads. And as you likely know, that means that this isn't a diving board sort of setup, but there's a haptic motor that's beneath the trackpad. That means that you can click it at any part of the trackpad and it feels exactly the same. And even in 2023 now, we have PC laptops that still use that diving board setup. And of course, these are bigger. These are still really nice, impressive trackpads. But that haptic design is just really special. And you can enjoy it here in the 2015 MacBook Pro. One thing I have noticed though is compared to more modern MacBooks, the haptics don't feel nearly as good and the trackpad is smaller. But you really quickly, if you use this computer, you'll get used to the size of it, and it's still an absolute treat of a trackpad. Really enjoyed it. And one thing that's really special about this laptop is the speakers on the front. Now, they're not nearly as good as a more modern MacBook. Apple laptops recently have gotten a lot better at adding bass into the speakers and making them sound more full. These speakers don't nearly sound quite as full, but I'm gonna go ahead and we'll just play this video and you can listen to how they sound. So you can see that sound can easily fill up a room. I guess that's probably not the most apparent just based on this video, but they're super loud speakers, they're crisp. The only thing I think is lacking from them is the bass. And that's something that really improved with the more recent MacBooks. They have tons of bass and they have no problem filling up a whole room with that bass. But all things considered, these were best of the best speakers at the time, I think, for any laptop in the game in 2015. And you're still gonna have a great time with them if you use them today. Now, I just want to take a moment to make sure all the apps are closed on the machine for one, but then open up a few applications and see how quickly it can open them up. So let's go ahead and open up Microsoft Word and see how quick that is. You see that came up in just a few seconds. Microsoft OneNote came up 3 seconds or so. And then let's try Excel. Now Excel has to do an update, so of course it's going to take a little bit longer. We'll just minimize that. But you can see that this app or this computer opens up apps quickly and almost without any sort of problem. And it's pretty impressive that it can do that. Now, all things being considered, this is running older software. It's running macOS Monterey. So with time, like, of course, it's going to be easier for it to open its older versions of the apps. But considering that this computer is coming up on 8 years old, the fact that it opens up applications like this and can switch between them and do everything you need to with so much ease is mind-boggling. It's really still an incredible computer. And I think you'll find in the used market, if you find a computer that was this expensive in its day and that has 16 gigabytes of RAM, a good fast SSD, a lot of computers from this age can still hold their own. So it's not unique necessarily to the MacBook, but it still is. It's impressive that this MacBook can do everything that it can, even with running older software on it. Now, just as another thing, I have to make a quick plug for MagSafe. Just how much of a joy this is. Like, I've been using newer MacBooks for a while, a 2016, a 2020 M1 that you can see on my channel. And I haven't had this in a really long time in a MacBook, but it is such a joy to just plop that in, have the LED indicator light when you're plugged into the wall and you haven't opened up the laptop to know if it's fully charged or not. It's really super nice to have, and I'm so glad that Apple brought that back. Also, on the other side, of course, you have that HDMI port, which is also just a joy to have when you're running around between classes, especially in college. Oftentimes you have to give a presentation, and it's super nice to just be able to bring your laptop up to the front of the school or the front of the classroom, plug it in, and give your presentation. There's no dongles, there's no fiddling around with like the different projection sort of apps that you can install. It's just plug it in with HDMI and you're set. So with all that being said, do I recommend the 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro? And that's a hard question to answer. I see them on eBay online for about $250 to $300, sometimes more if you find a more spec'd out configuration of it. And for that price, it is hard to recommend the MacBook. There are a lot of things about this MacBook that you're missing out on compared to the newer laptops. Like I mentioned briefly, the speakers are not quite as good as newer MacBooks, and neither is the screen. The trackpad is smaller, but still excellent. The keyboard is nice, but not nearly as nice as those bigger keys that we have on more recent MacBooks. And just the fact that you're paying $300 or so for a machine that's now coming up on 8 years old, it becomes territory that's a little bit less certain. I think it's well worth your money to get something a little bit newer, especially if you are okay buying something used on eBay already. I think the price that you see M1 MacBook Air is now sitting at about $550 to $600. The price for that, for how much newer, how much faster, and how much more software support those machines have, is going to go a lot further than this in this day and age. That being said, though, there is a case to be made for this laptop and how special it is. It's a gem of a laptop. You have that big, nice screen that's aged so well, that revolutionary trackpad that still feels amazing, these excellent speakers, and of course the ports and MagSafe on the side. This laptop is a gem, and if you can get it for less than $250, $200, maybe even in the 100s range, if you can find one of these, I say it would be fun to have around to use as maybe a secondary device. But I feel a little bit uncomfortable recommending it to you as your primary device in this day and age. It's old, and it's kind of reaching the point where things can fail quickly and easily on these computers. I just had a 2016 MacBook Pro, which is arguably a more problematic computer than this one, but I had one of those fail last week on me. So once a computer reaches this age, you're starting to run that risk a little bit more than on a newer machine. So hope you all enjoyed this video, and especially that you enjoyed the 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro. Can't wait to see you in the next video. Take care.